Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Hello everyone, welcome to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited and the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rylander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek.
Hello everyone.
And hello to everyone in the IRN chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. IRNchat.com is the link for the chat room, so come join us there. Tonight's category is cryptozoology, aquatic cryptozoology to be more specific. Tonight's topic is the Lake Monster Lake Champlain. Earlier this year, we did a show about the 2017 expedition they were planning in Lake Champlain. Well, tonight's show is about that update from that same expedition, which has been concluded. This will be the topic for the next hour. Is Champ for real? Tonight's guests have collected possible evidence of the creature's existence, which we'll be talking about with cryptozoologists Scott Mardis and William Dranginis in a minute, right before we do tonight's shoutouts. Shoutouts go to those folks and paranormal teams who have shared our show banners and archives this week on social media. So Jenny, who do we have?
Okay, so we have Robert Mulder, Lake Champlain Monster Research, Zombie Plesiosaur Society, Lake Monstrosities, Lake Champlain Mystery Animals, Beverly Bonin, Walter Brooks, author of Thoughts of Christos, Jason Bland of Paranormal Soup, Jose Tucker, Debbie Grasberger-Schmoll, Howie Odell of The Rift, Cindy Liu of Bizarro World, and ufologist Jose Colon, and of course, everyone in the chat room.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing our banners. We very much appreciate it. So if anybody has any questions for our guests, drop those in the chat room at irnchat.com, and Jennifer will ask our guests for you during the show. As I said, our guests are cryptozoologists with the Zombie Plesiosaur Society, Scott Mardis, who has been on the show before, and William Dranginis, who's with us for the first time. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to Paraversal Universe.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this evening, guys. It's good to have you back on.
I would like to say that Will and I have worked on and off together since 2009.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I guess I'll let him fill you in on that.
Well, I guess I know there's a lot you guys want to talk about and share. Why don't we start with the beginning? Actually, if you guys want to give us a little history about yourselves, quick, in the Zombie Plesiosaur Society, and leading up to that, I'm sure we can squeeze that in.
Well, Will is an electrical engineer and has actually engineered a lot of the technology that we've been using over the years. I'll let him give you the details on that.
Sure. Yeah, I've been in the actually the scientific community. I'm a science technologist for a company called Battelle. They're out of Columbus, Ohio,
Nice.
as well as a facility manager for one of their offices here. I've been doing the lake stuff for a number of years now, but what interests me is the actually getting into the environment and somehow trying to record interactions with these creatures. Everything that really got me started was a Bigfoot sighting back in 1995 while metal detecting with 2 FBI agents in the woods of Culpeper, Virginia. We were 75 feet from the creature, saw it as clear as day. It was during the daytime. Had a really, really good sighting of it, ran in front of us. The whole sighting lasted about 12 to 13 seconds. So when you see something like that jump out of a book of mythology and into your real life, it really shakes you to the core. So I spent many years studying the Bigfoot creatures, developing camera systems, covert camera systems to try to catch them. Had some interesting photos, videos, things like that, but nothing conclusive. But learned quite a bit. And I still do that research, but the Champ research caught my eye. That was back in 2009 with Scott and Elizabeth von Muggenthaler. I was very interested in that research, and I thought, wow, I love boats, I love water. Why not start the research on that too? So one thing led to another. Met with Scott and Elizabeth and had a really good time up there in New York State and Vermont. And this is sort of a continuation of that, really. It's a big lake, but I don't think, as in the Bigfoot creature, that wants to evade detection. I don't think these creatures in Lake Champlain are out to evade detection at all. I think they're there and they're just a little difficult to find, but it's been an interesting ride, and that's what we're doing at the lake, is to try to locate these creatures and come up with some hard evidence.
Well, you have to think they've got 129 miles of lake with something like 400 miles of meandering shoreline, and there's a large chunk of the lake they're hiding under 200, 300, 400 feet of water. To me, the obvious answer is you get to go down where they're living most of the time to find them. And they may die down there as well, and that's a good place to look for bones or, physical remains of some kind.
So let's talk about, so this year, okay, like every time we go out, we always want to do new stuff or try something we didn't do last time or maybe tweak something we didn't do before. Or I guess the first question I have is, well, what was the game plan and what were the goals going into this specific expedition?
Well, one thing I wanted to concentrate on was, like I said, the search for physical remains. And we know that roughly 10,000 years ago, what is now Lake Champlain was a fjord of a much larger sea called the Champlain Sea that was eventually cut off from the Gulf of St. Lawrence. And the water level was a lot deeper then. It was 150 feet deeper than it is now. And now that the water level has gone down, there are a couple of caves that would have been underwater during the Champlain Sea that are above ground now. The two that I am most familiar with are the one on Cave Island in Mallett's Bay, Lake Champlain, and then there's one called the Donahue Sea Cave off North Avenue in Burlington. And these two caves were carved out by wave action during the Champlain Sea. And the idea is that perhaps there may still be caves of this nature. They're not very deep and not very big, but they're big enough for something to hide in. And they know that sea turtles occasionally go into caves either to die on purpose or they blunder into them and get lost and die inside of them. So the idea is it's possible that, you know, if Champ exists, whatever they are, they may occasionally go into these caves and get stuck and die, and it's possible there could be bones of individual specimens in caves if we could find the caves. So these type of caves are only formed in sedimentary rock. There's a geologic map of the lake that shows isolated deposits of sedimentary rock around the rim of the lake. And the idea is to try to go investigate these places with the side scan sonar to see if we could find any caves like that are still underwater now. We tried to do a little bit of that, but we had a lot of mechanical and technical problems and weather problems. The other main thing I wanted to try to do is there seems to be 3 really good video pieces of evidence for the existence of these animals. That would be Sandra Manzi's famous 1977 photograph, which was taken up somewhere around the Alberg Passage on the northern end of the lake, probably between North Hero Island and Alberg, somewhere up in that area. Loch Ness researcher Dick Rayner believes he may have found the spot based on certain features that he sees in the background of the photograph. So one of the goals was to go up there and investigate that. And the other 2 pieces of film that I'm talking about are the Bodette video shot in 2005 near the Ausable River over in New York, and the Olsen video shot at Oak Ridge Park in Burlington in 2009. So one thing that we were able to do, we were able to spend 2 nights, or a night and 2 days over at the location that the Bodette video was filmed, and the best results that we had for this trip happened over there. We got some kind of a large gourd-shaped sonar contact that appears to have been around 12 or 13 feet long, swam under the boat. And we also, I heard a few echolocation-like clicking sounds on the hydrophones over there. So that's the major evidence we were able to get this trip. You know, we're still in the process of trying to analyze it, but those are the 2 most promising things that we got so far.
So, William, like, what's the exciting equipment that you guys brought? I should say, because I know you guys have, like, drones and you know, underwater cameras and all kinds of cool stuff. I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah, well, some of the equipment was used in previous years. The iGotcha H2O, which is a sort of an autonomous time-lapse camera, that had worked well in the past. Unfortunately, for the 2 weeks prior to our arriving at the lake, they had rain just about every day and every night, and the water was so cloudy. Visibility was about 3 to 6 feet. We measured. And that was all the way through the bottom, too. It didn't get any better at all. So we did deploy the cameras, the underwater cameras, the time-lapse cameras, and those were designed to be silhouette cameras where they would be placed anchored to the bottom. They'd be floating about 2 to 3, 4 feet above the surface, or above the bottom of the lake, looking up. And what they would do is use the sky as a background, and it would take a snapshot, a photo, every 5 seconds. So if you're looking at it from the bottom, it's a wide-angle lens. You're looking up and seeing a white sky, and anything that swims above it would be a dark silhouette. We had 2 of those there at the lake. The problem was you didn't see anything, really, any sunlight, until we brought the cameras up to about 6 to 8 feet, and it was just a very dull, greenish, brown, murky water. It wasn't really conducive for underwater photography. So we tried, but just conditions weren't there for that.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
I was really looking forward to that.
For those in 2014 down at Button Bay. With the
right. Yeah, the water was fairly clear. Yeah. The results were good there. We had good clarity, great images. We had actually shadows of airplanes that were coming in to land at the grass strip. People with kayaks going over, boats. I did some testing swimming over, just so I had scale to judge, and it worked out really well. So we tried this trip. It just wasn't conducive for that type of thing. We also had a deep 100-foot cable with a camera attached for doing spot videography down below, but again, the same problem. We even had a 360-degree Nikon camera that would be transmitting. We actually used a Wi-Fi cable which attached right to the side of the camera. The camera itself's waterproof down to 100 feet to view the video up top using the virtual goggles. But unfortunately, it was the same thing. There was no clarity in the water. That would have been great because of the 360 view. Once you put the goggles on, you could look around 360 up in the boat, just as if you were down below. So there was a good investment in equipment this year, basically for photography and underwater videography. Unfortunately, it wasn't conducive for that. We did have the hydrophone, which worked really well. We did get some pretty good audio. I was able to pick up something actually chewing underwater. It was very strange. I'd never heard anything like that before. It's very definite of something chewing. It was a heavy chewing. I'm not sure what it is. That's why we're going to have to take a little bit of time and go through this evidence.
There's like 5 hours of hydrophone recordings that I've yet to go through. But I was able to isolate a 2-minute sequence that we got the same day that we got the blob on the sonar over at Ausable River on July 4th. I can actually try to play that over the phone if you'd like to hear it. I'm not sure how well it'll reproduce over the telephone, but I can play it. It's only like 2 minutes.
You can try. I mean, put it up.
Yeah. Well, hang on here a second.
Yeah, one of the other... Yeah, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, let me just find it.
Sure. I'll go ahead and fill in. When you get it, Scott, just holler, and I'm going to fill in with a little bit of the sonar information.
All right.
If that's okay. One of the biggest things was the boat, too. Having a good-sized vessel on the water was key, where we could live in it, sleep in it. It was, instead of going to shore, camping out, all that sort of thing. A larger boat does have its problems. Had some issues trailering it up through Albany, where I lost it was a triaxle trailer, lost the left wheel bearing. That took a day and a half to fix, which I'm lucky to get it fixed so close to the 4th of July. But once the boat got in the water, we had some issues with steering. It was locked up. Finally, it took about a half a day or so to get that repaired. None of these problems happened prior. But the sonar is a Garmin 840 XS, and it has a down view and side view sonar. The whole system costs about $5,000. That's sort of a high end for that type of application. There's other sonars out there that are in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, but the technology's advanced in the last 3 to 4 years. That this is pretty good stuff for what we're doing. And I have the down view. You got it?
Yep.
Okay, let's roll.
This is like 2 minutes, so hang in there. Here you go.
Okay. We are not hearing anything.
Right.
Yeah, the clicks are barely audible because of the waves.
I said
I was able to filter out. There was a engine of a powerboat. I was able to filter out that. So I don't know if you could hear that very good, but
actually,
those are the
there was a couple times in there. There was a couple times in there where I could hear
Something.
the clicking.
Yeah.
And
that's
it was
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
That's very similar to the sounds that were recorded by Lisbon Muggenthaler at Lake Champlain in 2003, which you probably saw on the Monster Quest episode.
Most of that stuff in there wasn't, or it was, what can you say, possible. But there was a couple times in there where you can actually tell it sounded very much like echolocation, or how they click like that. And they have,
it's the same kind of clicks.
And that's suspended in the water.
Very,
right?
very faint. So I would assume that.
Not bad.
It was far away, much further away than whatever the source of the sounds that Lisbon Muggenthaler recorded in 2003. Now, we actually went to one of the places that she recorded her sounds in 2003. It's a place called Town Farm Bay, and it's right out from the marina we were staying out in Charlotte, Vermont. We went out there and put the underwater cameras down, and I also listened with the hydrophones, but I didn't get anything at Town Farm Bay. All the sounds that I was able to hear were over at the El Sable River, where the Bodette video was filmed.
Mm-hmm. So we just had up on our chat screen picture of the sonar radar. And let's talk about that for a couple minutes, because that's really cool.
You're talking about the blob that we got?
Yeah, well, it's blob.
Shaped blob, yeah. Well, it's whatever it was. It was vaguely Nessie-shaped or plesiosaur-shaped. One oddball thing about it, if it was a plesiosaur, you would expect to see flippers and a long tail, probably with a tail fin, because, what they know about reconstructing plesiosaurs, that's what they look like. You could say that, well, the flippers could be held up against the body.
Or underneath.
You would think you would see a tail there of some sort. But essentially, the blob you see there is shaped like a giant snail, in essence, which, some people have theorized that these creatures could be invertebrates rather than some kind of a reptilian animal, which is not impossible. I think it's less likely. There's no known fossil slug that's got that big that we know about.
How big is that? What size is that?
13 feet long, 12 or 13 feet long, I figured out, because if you look at the original...
Nice.
If you look at the original sonar screen, you can see on the right side, it goes from like 0 to 25 feet, and then it goes down to like 62 feet on the chart. And if you take that image and turn it sideways and lay it up against there, it comes out to about 13 feet long, which is fairly large. That's larger than the known... That's larger than the known lake sturgeons in the lake. They can get 7 feet long. So,
that's interesting. That's amazing.
Yeah. There are large pieces of wood debris in the lake. I mean, I've seen logs sitting on the beach 20 feet long. So there's really large logs floating around the lake. You look around the rim of the lake everywhere, and there's large pieces of wood debris, and some of those wood debris pieces are vaguely monster-shaped. So we can't necessarily rule out it being a large piece of wood debris. But the oddball thing concerning that idea is that this thing showed up on the sonar, and we panicked and tried to, at the time, we didn't even know how to get a screen capture on an SD card. So the only thing we knew to do was to take a photograph of the screen. And we got I think Will took 5 of them. And if you look at the time sequence and all the different photographs, this whole thing happened in 2 seconds, and it was gone. And we were anchored at the time, so it's not like we drifted away from it. This thing was in the water column and left. Now, whether it was an inanimate object that got swept out by currents and disappeared, or if it was alive and hauled ass and left, I don't know. But that's what really happened. And the fact that it disappeared so fast, and that we didn't see it again, and we were anchored there for a long time. We eventually drifted later in the evening. The anchorage came loose, but for several hours after we got the sonar contact, we stayed in the same area in 48 feet of water. So this thing was gone and we didn't see it again. So, that fact right there argues that it could have been something alive, but I don't know,
Yeah, there was one of the things that I noticed was what I would call the neck. Again, it's speculative at best.
Sure.
There are some differences in measurement as it went through the sonar wave. It did seem to move a little bit, but that could also be, if it was a log, it could have been rotation, and we were just catching that. So it's up for debate, but it was a good solid hit. I do know that some fish and sturgeon, things like that, a lot of those will reflect a good signal back. But yeah, I was concerned too that we didn't see any of the flippers. But it was just like Scott said, it was there, and we were sort of caught off by surprise.
I don't think it was a school of fish because it appeared to be one solid object.
Yes, yeah, definitely not a
and
school of fish. Definitely.
It had a classic, almost Nessie profile. It had a round body, and then this thinner section coming up that could, be interpreted as a neck and possibly a small head. And there was even a possible indication of what looked like horns. You hear, these animals were known by the Indians in their mythology as the great horned serpent. And there are, isolated reports of people seeing horns or snorkel-like objects on top of the head. So, that also ties in with the controversial underwater photograph taken in Loch Ness back in 1975 of what appears to be a head with horns or snorkels on top of it, taken by the Academy of Applied Science and Robert Rhines and his people. And people have debated ever since whether that was a log or a piece of wood. They even recovered a piece of wood in 1987 near where the photograph was taken that some people believe is the object in the photograph, and other people believe that it was the head of one of the Loch Ness Monsters. So, this is similar to the shape of what you see on the sonar blob. So.
Okay, everybody, and with that, it is time for our first commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network.
Welcome back to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, and we're chatting with cryptozoologists Scott Mardis and William Dranginis. But before we bring them back on, we'd like to take a minute and thank everybody who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic art designer Lawrence DeMisa.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Who's in the house tonight? Announcer William Pritchard. Music by Matt Stens. Producer Michael M.J. Lucas. Webmaster Joe Champion. And of course to God for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all. The segment is brought to you by Lucas Wellness, the UFO Wisconsin Research Team, and the Zombie Plesiosaur Society. We also have 3 Paraversal Universe like pages, so check those out, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malek, Psychic Demonologist, and the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited like page. We also have 2 group pages worth noting, Lake Monstrosities, which is the largest group page on Facebook for aquatic mysteries, and finally, Ultimate Conspiracies, which is pretty much self-explanatory. If you have any questions for our guests, go to irnchat.com to go to our live IRN chat room, where you can post questions and make comments. Jenny will pass those along. Next week on Paraversal Universe is the Paranormal Blender News Hour. At the end of every month, we do a newscast covering the paranormal, supernatural, esoteric, Fortean, and ultra bizarre. So check that out. That will be for the month of July. Okay, let's bring our guests back on. Ready?
Yes.
Are you guys still with us?
Yes.
Yep, still here.
Awesome. So, right when we went to commercial, we were talking during the break, and why don't we start with that?
Sure.
And that was, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to add also, we're not just taking pictures with the sonar, and Scott and I are we're pretty knowledgeable about sonar and the frequencies and things like that. But we realize that there's some other possible things in that sonar image. So what we're doing is actually taking the images and going right to Garmin. I have a contact through Garmin. He's going to bring it up the chain of command there. So we're going to have some professionals look at it and try to give us a better estimate of what it is, the density of the object, of the sonar hit. So, even though we've got the photos and things like that, we're still trying to figure out exactly what it is so we could determine the makeup and structure and things like that. So we're bringing it right to Garmin to let them determine what those radar hits are.
The interpretive process is every bit as important as the data gathering process.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
and the same thing with the... Go ahead.
No, just that's awesome. That's awesome to hear that. And that's the thing to do.
Yeah.
You're right. That's absolutely the thing to do.
And we're also going to be doing...
In order for the evidence to really mean something, it's got to be properly vetted, and all possible alternative interpretations other than an animal have to be explored before you can make the case for it being an animal that we haven't found yet.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good, solid investment. And
also the audio that we have from the hydrophones, that's going to be turned over to a professional because we do have wave sounds hitting the boat, wind sounds from the antennas, things like that also that were transferred into the water, engine sounds from a distant boat. So we're actually going to have a professional do that and try to clean it up even better than what Scott did. Because the information is there. It just has to be extracted.
Yeah, the fishes in the lake make a lot of noise, too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The freshwater drumfish makes sounds that sounds like a giant bullfrog croaking. Sturgeons can make sounds that sound like beluga whales, chirping sounds. So there's all sorts of, possible red herrings in the lake that we know about,
Right. Yep. Yeah, so we did have some issues initially with the what had happened with the SD card. I thought I had put that into the unit to do the digital snapshots from onto the SD card right from the monitor, but I neglected to put that in. I was planning on having at least a week to 2 weeks of sort of sea trials to get used to the sonar, but because of some maintenance work I had done, they sort of messed up a little bit, and I had to end up replacing the outdrive, which cost about another 2 weeks. So it was really, once the boat work was done, it was straight up to the lake. I didn't have any time for any trials. So we sort of learned as we go, but we learned quickly. We did fix that problem. We got the SD card in there. And throughout the rest of the time of the lake, we did get a lot of images, screenshots through the rest of the lake. So we got a lot of good stuff. It's just a matter of going through it and having the professionals look at it and determine what those hits were.
Really oddball bottom topography too in the deep part of the lake. Things that look like, castles out of a science fiction movie or something on the bottom of the lake. I'm serious.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean they look like castles and all kinds of weird, and it's not too hard to make the leap to imagine in some kind of sea monster sitting on top of this weird rock formation, kind of romantic.
Yeah. We hit thunderstorms, lightning storms. My God, it was an onslaught of environmental stuff going on up there. It was
and remember
amazing.
The weird fog bank.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
that was intense. That was actually that was really neat. We got some good video of that, some snapshots that'll be coming out later. But we were totally immersed in the fog bank. It was just amazing how cool the air turned once we got in there. It was actually pretty cold, but very, very eerie when you're looking for a lake monster and you're in a fog bank. It's a little scary, but it was fun. It was very enjoyable.
We were out the deepest part of the lake. I mean, the 400-foot depths, and then we went to this gigantic rock wall they call the Palisades. Just breathtaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lawrence DeMusa is saying that you guys haven't completed all the work you've done yet in the past few weeks. It'll probably take another couple months to get all the results back. And
exactly.
I just got back from Vermont on Wednesday, 2 days ago. So I'm just, I spent all day today and probably half of Wednesday, or yesterday and most of today and part of Wednesday, trying to interpret some of this stuff to get ready for this program. If you guys want to have us back on in a couple of weeks, I'm game. Probably have more to tell you.
We had, it was either get you on now this week or get you on in the middle of September because everything else is booked. So that's why when I found out, it's like, it would be ideally, right, we should have waited another one. But
I understand.
At some point, we do.
Whenever you guys want to have us back on, I'm sure we're up for it. So
at some point, should have him back on for part 2.
Oh, you guys are awesome, Zombie Please Resource Society. And absolutely. In fact, we want we want to also do every year we do a Lake Monstrosity show where we just talk about what's going on with the aquatic mysteries, 17 or whatever. So we usually put together a panel for that. So
whatever this blob object was, it's very important to this whole question because it's shaped like one of these lake monsters. If it is one of the lake monsters, it's an important piece of evidence. If it's not one of these lake monsters, if it's a piece of wood debris, it's still of coincidentally relevant shape and is an example of natural phenomena that can be mistaken for a lake monster. So either way, either interpretation makes it important to this whole question.
We totally applaud the effort you guys have put into this.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Absolutely. And people don't realize how long it takes to go through evidence once you go and collect it.
You can go with the best of equipment and technology and the best preparations, and there's always some, unknown factor like mechanical problems or weather or, money problems, all sorts of things that can throw a monkey wrench and everything, Considering all the things that could have gone wrong, I thought we did pretty good this time,
Sounds like
we definitely did.
Yeah. And you never know when something's going to happen. Like the Japanese expedition in November, we got that weird footage of that blob-looking thing coming up trying to take that piece of salmon. You know, and
Right.
we didn't know about that until after we got back and looked at the underwater camera footage. You know, we didn't see that live. We didn't know about it until after it happened. So you just
Well,
never know, you know.
You know, getting the boat, getting the gear, understanding how the gear works, understanding the topography of the lake, understanding all the factors that are involved, going out there, doing the research, using all the equipment, collecting the data. That is, it's easier said than done. And so we absolutely, you know, we do. We applaud you. You know, we have a NWPS paralogical, a cryptozoological expedition coming up, and it takes a lot of planning. I mean, them things are, of course, we're not in the water, but it's the same idea of just going out and making sure, you know, trying to troubleshoot anything that's going to happen, and then, you know, collecting what you can and bringing it back, and hopefully you'll find something.
Well, November will mark 25 years since my first trip to Lake Champlain. So that will make 25 years I've been looking for this thing. And I've only seen it, I think, one time in 1994. I've never seen anything since. But the one sighting I did have, you know, remains with me, and I believe it was a weird animal. So, you know.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be real quick. One thing that was very important, one of the main reasons, too, I went up was I was very intrigued about the Baudette footage with the ABC News footage. I did some enhancements to that, determined that there was something, some type of creature down below that had flippers. They were about 4.5 to 5 feet long. They were actually very mobile, and they provided propulsion and direction in one thrust of the flipper. But anyway, I ended up calling up. We got the number. Scott got the number for the attorney. I called him up. After a few conversations, he invited me up to look at the video footage up at his office in New Jersey. That was back in December of last year, and it was about a 3 to 4 hour trip to get up there. Spent about 3 hours talking to him and his wife and viewing the footage, and he let me control the forward, reverse, stop, all that sort of stuff. The footage is okay. It's not that clear. There's a lot of camera movement in and out of focus. The autofocus was on, and it wasn't doing a great job. The batteries were going low. There was a lot of factors involved. They weren't ready for something like that. They didn't have a UV filter, a polarizer filter on the camera at all either. It would have made for much better footage. But that's on water under the bridge, really. But what I saw with the rest of the video, and I'm not going to go into the exact details because I do respect them letting me see the full footage. What I saw was some type of prehistoric creature that looks very much like a plesiosaur, and that's from actually viewing different parts of the footage. It's not like it comes out of the water and you go, wow, there's a plesiosaur. It's everything that's taken separately, but once you add up the flipper wakes that it produces, the distance between the wakes, the head size, the little bow wave by the head, and then also another bow wave about a foot or so in front of it, meaning there's something else under the water that's pushing through and creating a wake. These little things add up, and the dexterity of the flippers, to me, was the holy grail there, because you could see it move, you could see it turn, you could see it cup itself and then push. And from their expressions and their talking when it was coming towards them, you understood that the thing was coming towards the boat, and they were scared. And at the last minute, it used its flippers to push down to go underneath the boat. And the body was still on one side of the boat where the flippers were. And from what they said on the video, it looked like a head coming out the other side, a head and neck. The beam on that boat is about 8 feet, 6 to probably around 7 to 8 feet on that particular boat. So you're talking something with a 6 to 8 foot loon neck. which is amazing in itself. So they thought it was about 18 to 20 feet long. I was going under the assumption. I tried to get them to let me enhance it. I do a lot of video enhancement work and have some specialized equipment for that. And that's what got me in the door in the first place. But once they sent the NDA agreement, non-disclosure agreement, to me, it was very direct, and it wasn't something I wanted to sign. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I'm in this for, sort of the science, but when you sign a legal document, anything could happen, and I'm just not going to put myself in jeopardy for any reason. And it was I was upset that I couldn't sign it, but I know how those documents work, and if something leaks out, you'll be the first one they send the certified letters to. So,
well,
I declined.
Maybe with further negotiations, you might be able to work these problems out. I hope so.
Yeah. I have the request in that I could go up to use their computer to do the enhancements and things. So I don't take any hard copies with me or electronic files with me. They stay right there. Because that's the thing. If a file gets lost or hacked or something, it gets out there and it has to do with that, it's a lawsuit. And I don't want to go through that.
Yep. I don't blame you.
So the door is still open. I let them know. They know what they have. There was a few things that they didn't know that were on the film that I suggested, and they were pretty excited, going, wow, we didn't even notice that before. So hopefully it will keep the door open and be able to do some more enhancement with that footage. But that was our thing, to try to get more footage. Unfortunately, the water clarity was terrible, and the creatures didn't present themselves. But we tried. We definitely gave it our best shot. We learned a lot. There's a lot of other possibilities, designing automated systems, autonomous recording systems that could be dropped and left there for a month or two, which would be the way to go for doing hydrophone recording, where you don't have to be there listening and recording on the boat. You just drop these things in the water, come back a month later, retrieve them, download the audio, and go from there. So it's been a learning curve. Really getting out in the water is huge instead of on the shore. We learned quite a bit. We also hit all the mechanical problems with the boat, the trailer. But we ironed out a lot of those things. So the evolution is there, and it's got a bright future for research up there.
Well, the plan is to return at some point, maybe not next year, but sometime the next couple of years at the latest, I would hope.
Yeah, it would be a lot quicker if somebody provided financing. The repairs for the boat, the trip up there, the time off of work. It's expensive. It's very expensive to do that type of research, but it was time. It was time to go up there, the boat. We had all the equipment. Everything was right.
Yeah.
But still, we lost about 50% of the time because of problems and weather and things like that.
Mm-hmm. We weren't able
to get
successful
overall.
The place that Dick Rayner thought the Mancy picture was taken in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to get up there with a friend of mine with a drone camera, and we did fly over it with a drone camera and got some photographs and footage. I'm still waiting to get the video from him. I've got some of the images. And the other thing is I was also able to go down to where the Olsen video was filmed at Oak Ledge Park as the sun was coming up, just in case to see if this thing might pop up again, because the original video was shot around daybreak as the sun was coming up. So I did manage to investigate both of those other two areas besides the Bodette location too. So, yeah.
So we have a question for you both from the chat room. Do they speak with other researchers, i.e. the creature in the North Carolina lake?
I know about it. I haven't had any contact with the researchers that are working on it, though.
I was actually going to ask you guys,
I think that's Lake Norman you're talking about, right?
Yes, Lake Norman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is man-made, by the way, too.
I was going to ask you guys if...
Yeah, it's a reservoir. I think it's maybe 60 years old.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So I was going to ask you guys if you have you ever talked about possibly picking another one of these lakes and going after like Ogopogo or like the North Carolina.
There are several places here in Florida that I would like to investigate. If I can just hook up with the right people, cryptozoology people here in Florida, like there's the monster they call Pinky in the St. Johns River, which sounds like a long-necked plesiosaur-type creature that may be coming in at Jacksonville from the ocean and coming up occasionally into the St. Johns River. And about 60 miles north of there in Georgia is another river called the Altamaha River, where they also report a long-necked plesiosaur-type creature that's seen there very often. I'd like to investigate both of those places at some point, but, I've been doing the Champ thing for so long, I'd like to stick at that as my main thing for the time being, but... Flathead Lake in Montana, I'd also like to investigate. It has a long history of reports.
We have Pepe, Lake Pepin here in Wisconsin.
Which is essentially an enlargement of the Mississippi River.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, you got Lake Superior and like Lawrence is saying, Ohio in Lake Erie.
Oh, of course, Lake Erie, Bessie. Yeah, long history of sightings there too.
So we have.
At one time, the Great Lakes and the Champlain Sea were all connected in one piece, and they were connected to a larger lake to the west of that called Glacial Lake Agassiz, which stretched all the way to Alberta. It was just amazing.
So, with the last couple of minutes we have left, because time flies so fast, you guys.
Too fast. Way too fast.
Yes. We were going to ask. Now, you guys do have a page on Facebook, right? A group page?
A group, yes. Yes, it's called Lake Champlain Monster Research by Scott Mardis, William Dranginis.
Okay, and then you also have Zombie Plesiosaur Society?
Yeah, and then there's another page called Lake Champlain Mystery Animals, which I started probably about 5 years ago, somewhere in there.
Awesome. And
there's a documentary Alexander Petikov is making for Small Town Monsters about Champ, and we're going to be in that. There was some footage shot with us out on the lake. And I will also be speaking at Creature Weekend in October in Cambridge, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Who was on the team when you guys were out there? Was it just you and William, or is there any?
What? I couldn't hear part of that. What'd you say again?
Your expedition team. Was there any other members besides you and William? Any shout-outs or anything?
Basically, us two. Katie Elizabeth went out with us one day in the boat.
Yeah.
And my friend Jason Lorfeis, who does Bigfoot research in Vermont, assisted me. And I also had some help from my friend John Cronin, who's also interested in Bigfoot in Vermont. He had a boat. We went on his boat one day to try to get over to Cave Island. And we took a trip down to Whitehall, New York, to visit Paul Bartholomew, who investigates Bigfoot in Whitehall. And we hit some various places, historical Champ sites, going down there and coming back. Like we stopped at a place called Dresden, New York, which is down the southern end of the lake. And in 1873, this is where the first major Champ flap happened. It's just a little north of Whitehall, so yeah, but most of the stuff out on the boat was me and Will. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. We're William, Scott, we're so glad that you guys came on the show this evening.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, it was great having you both on, and thank you for sharing all of your information. We really appreciate it.
Yes, and we will find a way to get you guys back on.
For part 2.
Yeah, for part 2.
Sure. That would be good to put a closure to a lot of the research, so we could move on.
Sure, absolutely.
Yep.
This week we have Paranormal Blender, which is paranormal news, and so join us for that. That's at 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time, Friday night on Inception Radio Network. Believe it, evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
Thank you. God bless you. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.